Welcome, shouters, to the Go Shout Love podcast. My name is Seth Carnell, and this episode is filled with a lot of emotion right from the beginning. We are talking with Don and Chelsea Marshall, the parents of Micah, an incredible 10-year-old boy who has been diagnosed with Spinal Muscular Atrophy, or SMA, type 1. And we are shouting for him this month, along with 4 other amazing kids, all from Southern California. In this episode, you will hear a family with a lot of heart that is on a journey of continued uncertainty, but filled with purpose and love and community. A diagnosis like this has a great impact on these parents and people close to them. We are very, very grateful for Don and Chelsea to give us a deep, intentional look at that. Along with me in this interview is Jessica Santo, our Family Relations Director, and we are also privileged to have with us in the room Kristen Estock, the Go Shout Love founder and Community Relations Director. Please take a moment to rate and review us on the Apple Podcast. It will help go a long way in continuing to shout love for families exactly like this.
It's always tricky with these podcasts and us. We never know where it's going to lead and when we've gone too far digging, and we never want to overstep a sensitivity. So whatever you guys are comfortable sharing is amazing for us. So just don't forget to talk in the microphone. Okay.
I've always felt like, and you may want this too, I've always felt like the journey that Micah's taken us on was for a reason. We've been able to be a part of so many people's lives, to help so many people through, their own trials, because, that we walked through it first, and the same way that we relied on people that went before us to kind of help us figure it out. But the biggest impact that all of this has had in the people that we've met and interacted with and going through everything that we have with Micah has been on my outlook and purpose in life. And I think that maybe, a little bit of the insight into my mindset shift can help shed some light on some things for some other people too. So I've always been a very ambitious individual. I've always been very business-minded, focused on attaining wealth and things, and it was important to me to have things and to be able to do things. And at the moment that they told us not to expect more than 2 years with our son, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, at the time they said not to expect more than 2 years. That's tough. Just
It shifts your purpose.
Mentally, it all went away, and none of it mattered. And I all of a sudden felt almost silly.
Yeah, that's a very big thing to think about.
And so it immediately took my mind off of, the things that I was trying to accomplish in my life and made me focus on this life that we were given and put in charge of and blessed with being a part of. And, I had to learn how to be a dad to Micah.
It's like this diagnosis and Micah being in your life has shifted you as a person in ways that you never would have expected.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's another way to put it. My goals in life were completely rewritten.
I'm curious, how would you describe him before and after?
I think before, it's like you said, he was always trying to figure out the next new mousetrap, if you know that saying. He always wanted to do this, and then once that was started, it was like, okay, what's next? And then what's next? And then what's next? Once Micah was diagnosed, he was a lot more present, because the moments that we have were more important now. So when he was home, he was there. Like, he was interacting with Micah, talking to him. You know, Joseph too. Both the kids. It's like every moment that he's here now is more valuable. So it really did. It shifted kind of where the important time was spent.
What's probably the one thing that you're the most proud of in Don as a dad?
Probably just the level of connection he has with both the kids. You know, he takes the time to understand like who they are as individuals and what they're going through as, you know, a young man and a young boy, and, you know, talk to them and relate to them and read to them and, you know, think about what's important for the stage of life that they're in and make that, you know, present and important.
And what about you with Chelsea as a mom? What are you the most proud of her for?
You know, her ability to translate love into action with the boys is
I love that.
incredible.
What did you say? Translate love into action. Mm-hmm. That's powerful. That's.
Secondly, I would say that her transformation into mom nurse.
You know, it is an incredible thing to see. I mean, we talk to so many families who they sit down and they just rattle off all of these medical terms, and we're just looking at them like, how do you know all this? But you do. You shift.
It's your kid. You have to.
Yeah,
you just learn it. It becomes
and
second
you learn
nature.
it quick. And
yeah.
Yep.
So there's been a couple of times that, you know, her understanding of Micah's condition and how to react to episodes, you know, has without a doubt prolonged his life by years at this point.
I'm going to write down that saying really quick. Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. You already wrote it down? Wow.
So 10 years down the road, I'm 10 years into this.
Okay.
What would you go back and tell yourself after receiving the diagnosis? If you could go back and tell yourself in that moment, what would it be?
And I think that translates also into what would you tell yourself and what would you tell a family who has just gotten this diagnosis?
Me first? I would tell myself and anybody else the same thing. It's, you can't change it. Like, don't worry about what it means. You have to live the life that's put in front of you. You have to figure it out. And so, you know, you're dealing with this thing with your kid, and you don't have a choice, right? So quit worrying about what you're going to do and do it.
Yeah.
Like, be the parent that you have to be.
Be present. To be.
With Micah, and this may be valuable, it may not. When we got his diagnosis, I mentally was telling myself, okay, you have to figure out how not to get too attached to this kid, because you don't know how long he's going to be with you, and you don't want to freaking be shattered when he dies.
Well, that's what they told us when he was diagnosed too. He not that exact thing, but they told us he would not live to 1, and we'd be we'd be lucky if he made it to 1, and he would die by 2, is what they told us.
And so, thinking of that as a dad, it's like, I don't want to be so, you know, entangled in this life that I'm not going to get to continue to be a part of. And he kept outliving what we were told each step of the way. Micah was just tough, you know. He wasn't ready to go, and we kept having more and more time. And it's like, you went from thinking you had to figure out how not to get attached to now, okay, how do I be a dad to this kid? And so anybody, like, if I could go back and have a chance to restart, and for anybody that's just getting any kind of a terminal diagnosis like that, be the parent, like, be the dad.
That's very, very, very powerful.
So for me, I think what I would go back and tell myself is that you got this. Like, you can do it. And, you know, each thing that may seem too hard, you'll figure it out. And then one of the other things that's really important and something that took me a while to figure out is you need to move forward with your focus on what's best for your kid. Because I think in the beginning we were so focused, or I was focused on what everyone else was doing with their kids, that it took me a long time to realize what was best for Micah and his situation and how we cared for him. So taking in all the information that is out there is great, but make sure that you're always taking into consideration what's best for your kid.
And I think what you mean too with that is not comparing him to like a textbook, like what his disease is, because his disease for him is different than it is for other kids battling that. Like, you trust what your child's doing because you see it.
Well, absolutely. And we had a story of someone who is very unhappy with their life as an SMA person, and they had a tracheostomy, and they had wished they hadn't done that. And so that kind of scarred my mind against the tracheostomy. And so it took us a long time to look at Micah and say, you know, the breathing machine that he's on now, the BiPAP, is causing a lot more problems than it's solving. And in order for him to be comfortable, in order for Micah to be comfortable, he needs to have the tracheostomy.
How old was he when he had that?
We had it done in 2013. So he was 5. Sorry, I have to count.
That's all right.
It's been long enough. So he was 5. And the doctors were actually shocked that we waited as long as we did. And once the surgery was over, you know, we could see his face. He was comfortable. It's easy to get to his lungs to take care of it. You know, hindsight, I would have done it sooner. But it was another, a situation where I was worried about what had happened with someone else and wasn't paying attention to what my kid needed.
We'll get back to the rest of it in a minute, but I wanted to say that as a team, we love introducing the world to awesome families, but we also love helping them with real everyday needs. That's why we sell creative apparel, and half of all those proceeds go directly to the families. So head over to our website at goshout.love and purchase a t-shirt, a mug, a hat, or more to help us purchase a chill out chair for Micah, which is a high-grade, comfortable chair perfect for his needs. You can also start a monthly subscription and shout love for great families like this every month. I would strongly recommend this. It's a great way to shout love. But please use the discount code PODCAST. You can save $5 on your first order when you start the subscription. Again, that's $5 off your first month with the discount code PODCAST. And now back to the interview. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, walking into this house and seeing like a community around you.
Isn't it great?
All dressed in Go Shout Love shirts was overwhelmingly awesome. But I can't help but like almost commend the culture that you've kind of created around Micah. Like, can you describe? He has a group of friends. How did? I guess I'm a little bit overwhelmed by that. That's amazing. Can you describe like how did that come about, and what has it done for you guys and for Micah to have like a group of friends that will come around him and nominate him?
But also speaking on that, what I find so fascinating about these kids is they don't look at him having having SMA.
It's not someone they pity or
the questions that we asked them, none of their answers were about SMA or what's going on.
Yeah, I think it boils down to the fact that we just treat him like a kid.
Yeah.
I pick on him, I rough him up. You see he's in a cast. That's because I put him in a figure 4 and applied too much pressure.
That's not true at all.
So maybe no, we just we take him outside. We let him get dirty. We never put him in a bubble. We decided he only has this little bit of life to live, so we're going to show him all of it that we possibly can, and that's translated to how people out in the world interact with him too.
Well, and now it's not he just has a little bit of life to live. Now it's we just want him to be fulfilled every day.
Yeah.
You know, we want him to do everything that everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the kids go, you know, we've met a lot of kids down the road. You know, he used to go to public school when I would go with him. But there is certain kids that have this beautiful heart. And they see Micah. They don't see the wheelchair. They don't see the breathing tubes. They don't see the feeding tubes. You know, they don't care that he can't run. You know, you push him around in a wheelchair, and they see a kid. And every one of those kids out there that is here today, they see him as a kid.
What's the advice you can give us as parents?
For the kids who are hesitant when they see a wheelchair or anything.
Well, I think it's just as simple as, you know, letting them ask their questions. You know, telling them that, you know, God created that kid too. You know, there's nothing to be afraid of. They might be a little bit different, but, you know, ask the questions.
Should parents be nervous about let's say you guys are in a grocery store and their child comes up and asks questions. As a mom, I would be kind of like, please don't say something hurtful, but they're children. And are you guys... I mean, as a mom, is it good for the kids to ask their questions?
I'm going to take this because it'll turn into...
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean,
it'll turn heated.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad I asked.
I'm going to answer both parts of that question.
Well, I'll tell you a story in a minute.
Okay. Just for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, I just asked the question that was rude.
Yeah.
I just did it.
The one thing I told you not to ask.
Yeah.
So going back to...
And I'm out.
Going back to the advice to parents on how to instill those kind of values of having, you know, the blinders on their own kids. You don't want to hear it, but your kids are going to react to things the way that you react to things in front of them. I mean, it's...
Yeah, because I feel like initial reaction, a lot of times I see moms avert and
they do.
ignore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's not teaching your kid anything.
Yeah, so that's showing your kid that there's something that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Right? So that's part number one. Part number two, we hate... I don't know if I can use that word on the podcast.
It's okay.
There's been some words.
Yeah, cool. When people come up and say, "What's wrong with him?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing's wrong with him.
What's wrong with you?
This is Micah.
Yeah,
this is
Ashley said that,
this is the life that he was given, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think what we appreciate is when kids show an interest and want to understand, you know, what's going on with Micah. We appreciate getting to explain what the machines do. We appreciate getting to explain, you know, Micah's a kid just like you. He's not as strong as you are. You know, his muscles don't work quite the same way yours do, and he needs a little help with this stuff. Tell your story.
So I have had, you know, the full spectrum of kids come up to Micah because, like I said, we were in public school, and we have had the ones that won't come anywhere near him. We've had the kids that will actually come up and hit him. We've had kids that love him to death and will tell everybody in the school how cool Micah is. But, you know, there are the kids that come up and go, what's wrong with him? And when you explain to them, you know, for the most part, I always try to be patient because they may not have seen it before. And so this is their first experience with a child with a disability. But then sometimes you get well, I'm stronger than Micah. You never know the family situation, so you always try to just be kind. But
at the same time, too, Micah's a 10-year-old little boy.
Exactly.
And he's hearing what these kids say.
Exactly.
The good and the bad. And it kind of brings me back to a little fact about SMA that I feel like is important for people to know because I don't think that they do if they're not familiar with SMA. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Micah's brain is not affected by his disease. Is that correct?
Right. His brain is 100% perfect.
And he is a 10-year-old little boy
Yeah.
who loves to watch Pixar. I mean, that is... And do those things that 10-year-old little boys want to do. So the fact that all of his friends here, he's loving every minute of it. He's
Absolutely.
aware. He knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something about SMA that a lot of people don't know. And it's a big It's a big thing to think about, and it's a blessing that he can...
Yeah, he sees and hears everything and understands it all. So when someone says something not nice, like, he still hears it. Like, even if I can snap in there and correct it, he hears it. Fortunately, he's got a great group of kids, and they all love him. So I don't think that it, hurts him too much, but, he does understand it.
What's been your, and this is a question for both of you, what's been your biggest win as a parent to Micah? What's been something that you have just flexed your muscles for because you were so proud of yourself?
I think that he's almost 11.
Right?
I mean, plain and simple,
Obvious answer.
I know.
He's happy and he's smart and, he's healthy right now. And, he has school and, he enjoys his brother and we have tons of family around. I don't know that there's, much more good.
He has a beautiful life. You guys have created such a beautiful life for him.
Kristen's just, I think you're ready to move in.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, you can have our living room.
Sorry to my husband and children back home. Called Pittsburgh.
I think that you kind of answered it earlier, Dawn, when and you can answer it how you want to, but just you shifting that perspective is a big thing that you should, give yourself credit for, because it takes a lot to do that, and I think that's a win.
And like you said, to just for other dads to hear, to just be a dad. I think oftentimes the dads get overlooked easier because mom is the caretaker normally in home more often. So that's so important and powerful.
Yeah, so repeating what I said before about just showing him life and letting him be a kid. I mean, he has not been, to any extent, kept in a bubble or sheltered from the world. He's been out to the desert, dirt bike riding. He's been to the lake water skiing. He's been, we did life with him. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to put their handicapped kids out there to experience the world. I would encourage them not to do that to them.
I'm going to ask very briefly about Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know what we call him, Joe or Joseph.
Both.
I like Joe. Seems like, whatever.
He's Joe when he's good. He's Joseph Lloyd when he's in trouble.
Joseph Lloyd. Oh, we got a middle name. What's Micah's middle name? Paul. Ooh,
That's my son's middle name.
it's a good, strong name. He seems like a reserved kid. Is he?
So,
Mom over there. He's 13.
He is now.
Yeah. I guess
his journey through Micah's journey was a trip. He, when Micah was first diagnosed, he spent 30 days in the PICU with her there. And so it was me and Joe back and forth, and he went through a period of getting passed around. Like I said, I was working, we were running businesses, and he was not quite 3. And so it was spending nights at grandparents and getting handed off in between people going to work, and
which he got spoiled, so it wasn't too bad.
But no, he just became very sensitive of the situation, and then watching, he basically grew up watching Micah grow up, and so he's become a very sensitive. It looked
like him sitting there when we were answering the questions for the video that. Like, he feels this deeply. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, too. Micah's had 2 different episodes where we thought he had passed away. Mm-hmm. Completely unresponsive. Didn't have a heartbeat for a little while. Didn't have any oxygen in his blood. Like, we thought he was gone.
Is that recently?
No, fortunately.
Joe was probably 7 the first time it happened.
Oh, wow.
6 or 7.
Joe knew what was going on. He came in and said goodbye to his brother. And he went through that. And then the second time that it happened, he was home with me with Micah. And when I realized Micah was in crisis, Joe was the one that was running upstairs to get me what I needed to try to revive his brother. So he's had a lot of trauma in his life, too. So he's very sensitive to a lot of things, very emotionally sensitive because of what he's been through.
He's probably had to grow up a lot in those years.
I think Micah's coming in now.
He has.
He seems like a great big brother.
Yeah.
He really is. He is.
awesome. He's in there talking to us. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been an amazing day. It's been an incredible day. I don't want to leave. Like, these kids, your family, everything has just been, it's, you know, I'm going to get emotional, I think. But I think with us, when we tell these stories, it's just, it can get dark and it can get, you know, it's heavy, and we deal a lot with listening to these journeys. But this is just freaking beautiful. These kids are just incredible, and the love that Micah is shown and everything is just kind of a reminder of what we're doing and why we do it. And I'm just glad to have met you guys. So
I'm
a crier. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
This was
thank
great.
you.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
We can't wait for everyone to meet you.
Thank you for listening. Please, again, go and rate and review this podcast. I would also like to remind you that you can get $5 off your first month subscription when you use the discount code podcast at checkout. Keep shouting love, everyone.